Here's just the thing with the severity of my dyslexia. The simple stuff after a concussion I had 15 years ago just knocks me out. If you could go into our pod match discussion, okay, and then just type out exactly what you're looking for, then I have a support system that allows me to do that. It's just my ability to do simple things is gone from that concussion.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here. You are going to be so happy you're here. I'm Kim Sorrelle. I'm a speaker. I'm an author. I get to do so many fun things in life, but my favorite thing to do by far is to meet people. And I get to meet some extraordinary people. And today is no exception. Russell has spent years and years figuring out how to help people with dyslexia. And you're going to be blown away by the things that he has to say. And we're going to get into that after we meet him and get to know him better, because I want you to know him. He's an incredible human being who has the biggest heart. All he wants to do is serve people. All he wants to do is help people. Sometimes there's roadblocks to that, which is so frustrating. But we'll get at all of that in a minute. Right now, Russell, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here. Okay, so I do want everybody watching, listening to really get to know you. So I want to hear about 8-year-old Russell.
Well, when I was 8, I was told that I was dyslexic and I was put in special ed. My parents tried to say it wasn't a punishment. It was, because I was always educationally curious, especially in history. And I was put in with a bunch of kids who, at the time, this around 1980, early 80s, and they just warehoused special ed kids. They didn't know what to do with us, like nothing. So things did not go well. And then what really got me upset is in 5th grade, they did a Pilgrims project. Now, I had two relatives on the Pilgrims. One was their religious leader, one was the biggest malcontent in the entire colony. And I tried to explain to my parents growing up, it must be that's getting in trouble. It's in the genes, and that didn't go over well. But I missed that whole project. And then finally, it really got me upset. And finally, I had a neighbor who was on the school board, and his son and me got our Eagles at about the same time in Boy Scouts. And I just said, I got to get me out at least for history. And I just browbeat him. And he said, I can do this once. Got me one class. So I go into history and I get hundreds on every test. I got the history award for 8th grade. Get out of high school, get out of that, go into high school in all mainstream classes. Problem is, I have a 1st grade reading and writing level. I found a way for short spurts on tests to jump it, but it was extremely unpleasant. So somehow got through school, got into college, somehow got through most of college. And the most interesting part was it was the late 90s. I was finishing up college and I wanted to know how laws were created, not some class I wanted to know. So I assigned for the New York State Assembly internship program. And I show up and I say, here's my neuropsychological evaluation. I have a 1st grade reading and writing level. Well, the director just kind of freaked because how the assembly worked, typically you got the elected official, then you got the chief of staff who's probably an intern the year or two before, and then the intern. And that's all you have to run the office. So they have to do real work. And I would screw it up. So they went up to the speaker's office. And the speaker's office said, you're not getting rid of this kid because he's dyslexic. Figure it out. So they got a committee together and they did a really abrupt thing. The only solution they could come up with is they physically took me out of the legislative office building. And then they took me into the Capitol under the Majority Leader's Programming Council's office. Why? They had 3 administrative assistants that could help out with my horrendous writing. But they didn't know what to do with an undergrad. So it's a grad office. So they treated me as a second graduate intern, which was great. I had a real internship. So then it came for the academic portion instead of a 30-page paper. I gave a multi-hour report verbally, very long, a lot of details, went on for hours. So they wrap everything up. They said, your internship, in our opinion, is 15 credits of A minus. So then I send this back to our flagship state university, the State University of New York Center at Buffalo, the political science department. They look over this report that says 15 credits of A minus. They look at these extraordinary accommodations, and they were extraordinary. And they said, we don't like these accommodations. So we're going to lower your grade. What do you think they lowered it to from an A minus?
C.
No, they flunked me.
Oh, no.
15 credits of F. This was 29 years ago. And it's still the only time in the history of that internship that this ever happened. So at that point, I said, I am done with the discrimination. And just remember where I came from. I was working in the Majority Leaders Program and Council's office that ran the assembly day to day, not some obscure assembly member. I knew the people that made things happen. I was there nights, weekends with them when I wasn't required to. So I was offered all these state positions. I was offered to be a high paid lobbyist. I turned all that down to solve dyslexia. So
Wow.
then, well, I think you'll find my solution to be rather strange.
Before we get to your solution, let's
Mhm.
back up just a little bit because you've
Sure.
given me 20 years of history in
Okay.
the last 10 minutes. All right. So, first of all, dyslexia, I
Mhm.
remember when I first heard the word. And I, when did dyslexia get named and diagnosed?
There's been a school called the Gowl School in Western New York that's been a private school for dyslexic students, and this is its 100th year.
Okay. All right. So one school in New York, 100 years.
Uh,
I'm in Michigan. I don't know that there was any help for kids that
Oh,
yeah, and I don't remember ever hearing about it like when I was in school. Like did people even know what it was? Were
oh, yes, they've known. So just you know what dyslexia is. Just so everybody knows, this is the book called Overcoming Dyslexia by Dr. Sally Shaywitz from Yale. This is the book in my field. That's dyslexia. Do you see how the back part of my brain has like nothing going on?
yeah,
And the
yeah,
back part of your brain is going crazy.
okay.
Okay. Now, do you
Yeah,
see how the front part of my brain is about 2.5 times overactive?
yeah.
Okay. So that's important because now I want to tell you the part of my story that most people find the most interesting.
Okay, but before we do that, so
Okay.
okay, so that's a dyslexic brain.
Hmm.
My point is, I just don't remember kids getting any help when I was in school, and certainly, what percentage of the population has dyslexia?
Maybe 5 to 10% if you're throwing in similar neurodiverse ADD, ADHD, and other things, you can push up to 15 to 20.
Okay, all right, so it's a decent amount of the population.
Yes.
Certainly, I went to school with kids who had
Hmm.
dyslexia. Chances are high that I did because of the number of students that were in my
Yeah.
school. So I don't remember anybody. I remember kids struggling in school. I remember kids having issues. I don't remember anybody ever talking about dyslexia, that it was a thing that kids had, or any kid ever saying to me that they have it, or anything like that. I feel like since you've come on board, and Dr. Sally, I mean, whoever, there's certainly been people that have been passionate about dyslexia and wanted to make changes and wanted kids to thrive, survive, not
Hmm.
just survive, thrive and grow and become all that they can be with dyslexia, that it shouldn't be a handicap, that can be a benefit in some ways, and the way you look at it. Uh, but to me, in my experience, it just seems like it's been in the last however many years, not like in the last 100 years. Because certainly in New York at that one school there is, but like in my school system, I don't know that it was ever addressed when I
Oh, they knew about it. They absolutely knew about it. They just didn't care.
yeah.
There has been Dr. Orton founded the philosophy of that school. He passed away in 48. His other person he worked with, Gillingham, passed away in the 50s. They knew about this when your parents were in school. They
Mhm.
knew about it when you were in school. They just didn't really care. This book came out in '03. That was 23 years ago. Okay. We've known about this, but they still haven't figured out how to solve it. So, what the general solution is now, and this is why it doesn't get fixed, is if the schools would bother to, and I'm going to be rather harsh on this because a federal judge said if you don't do this, it's gross negligence. If you if the school bothered to call up Yale at when the kids are in kindergarten. Say, how do we test for dyslexia? You don't have to go to Yale. It's just Google Yale and dyslexia. It's Yale Dyslexia uh, something or other center, Dyslexia and Creative Studies. There are other ones around the country. This is the most prominent. And they'll say, here's how you test for dyslexia. It's $30, $50 a student. The teacher can do it. It's inexpensive. Once you find out they're dyslexic, here are these federally funded programs that have been around for decades. 500,000, $1 million a piece. Pick what you want. Then your goal is to get the kid to read at grade level by the end of third grade. If they do, they're going to be fine. If not, emergency 911, because then what you have to do is, I'm sorry, K through 3, we learn to read. Kindergarten through college, fourth and above, we read to learn. So what happened in New York State is the head of our judiciary committee, Rhodes Scholar, Harvard grad, Senator Hoylman Segal, found out his daughter was dyslexic in fourth grade. And they said, well, gee, if we came in kindergarten, we could have got this done relatively easily. Now, in fourth grade, her evaluation is $8,000. His family can support it. She then goes to a $75,000 a year private school. And that's what it takes to fix it. About 4 to 5 years. So, example, in Upper West Side of New York City, there's a school called the Windward School. They're 98% successful. They take the kids in fourth grade or fifth grade or older. Just in this example, they're there for 4 to 5 years at 75 grand a year just in tuition, and then they send them back, and they're as educated as you can possibly be. We don't have that type of money. So then it never happens. The kids keep falling through, and we just can't seem to find what to do. So if you do the K through 3 thing, Yale can tell you how to do that right now. They've been able to tell you to do that for decades. The fourth grade and above is what I focused on because people don't have $75,000 around. That's that same process that the Gowell School's been doing for the past 100 years. Okay. So what I just wanted to explain to you is after I found out I had the first grade reading and, after I got that discrimination, my journey that ended up being to solve this, what happened is I was really angry. So I went to my professors and I said, how do I learn to read and write so I can teach other dyslexics? Because I'm done with this discrimination. I've had it. And they said, well, if you like politics and you want to learn this in grad school, that's easy. The place to go is law school. And they were joking. But I went to law school.
Good for you. That's
Well,
good.
yes, but I had a first grade reading and writing ability, and lawyers read and write more than anybody.
Mhm.
So what happened is what crystallized all of this was it was my second day of contracts. And what they do is they in law schools they ask you questions using the Socratic method. Nobody knows what they're doing the first week. If you don't know the answer, they will ask you questions even though they know you don't know anything to embarrass you publicly until you adapt. Well, second day of contracts, my contracts professor called on me and I didn't respond as a student. I responded as his equal. Okay, I just clearly so you understand what happened. So again, I did not respond as a student. I responded as an equal to a professor who was a teacher for 30 years, which is more than I lived at that point in time. He kept asking me really tough questions and I kept responding. What happened is that overactive part of the brain that I showed you, everything organized for the first time in my life. I could see clearly for the first time. I knew where he was going multiple steps ahead. He knew where I was going. It's like we're doing a slow motion chess match and our brains are going at hyperspeed. We're going back and forth, arguing like crazy for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Finally, he threw up his hands and said, Russell, you couldn't be any more correct. I have to move on to the next case in the interest of time. My classmates were shocked. They never heard of that. He was shocked. So then in the next month, I learned to read. In the next few years, I learned to write. Then I went back to the New York State Senate and I said, I want to show what I've learned for other dyslexic students, and I want you to fund my research, which they don't do. So they send me over to the New York State Education Department. For years, I worked through all the bureaucracy. And finally, they fund a multi-year study. So what we did is I wanted students like me. These are highly intelligent, highly motivated dyslexic juniors and seniors with middle school writing skills. And I give them a test called the Graduate Records Exam Analytical Writing Assessment, the test for writing into grad school. How do you think they did on the pretest?
Not very good,
Well,
right?
they have middle school writing skills, and this is testing the writing of a college graduate.
Yeah. So not good, right?
0 percentile for the vast majority of them. One class period a day for the school year, they jump up to the 30th to 70th percentile of entering graduate students. They all graduated from college. They all cost the state less than $900 a kid. We were compared to the best dyslexic college at the time that transferred kids to four-year schools. We were 3x as successful for less than 1% of the cost. And that's how I started on this journey.
Wow. 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 So you finally got the funding after all
Mhm.
this frustration. But it's always so cool to me how every day you live leads you to today. And
Mhm.
so all of your experience and even wanting to do an internship with the government,
Mhm.
right? Like that played into your favor. Like everything that you did just kind of led you to be able to do the study, to be able to do the next steps. And so I think that's so cool. And I think it's really cool too, Russell, that you took what is a pain for so many kids, unfortunately, right? And you have it. And instead of just going, oh, I'm dyslexic, you go, I'm dyslexic. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to figure this out so that other kids can figure it out. Kudos to you. I'm so happy that you're around and that you're doing this. It's just so cool.
Right, but here's the thing: Yale and all these other top universities have been spending decades and untold billions to solve this problem, and they haven't done it. So when I looked at that, I thought I had the answer. So I go down to New York City, the International Dyslexia Association's New York City branch, and we presented in 2006 with the Averill Park Central School District where this was held. I thought I did something amazing. I thought I was done. I was so wrong. When I presented this, I had two issues that we ran into. First one was the professors. The professors came to me and I spoke to them. I said, well, I had a couple of these kids scored in the 70th percentile of entering grad students from middle school. And they said, we don't care. We want the craft of research. I was like, the craft of what? The Craft of Research. It was a book published in 1995 by the University of Chicago to literally tell PhD students how to write their dissertations. And they wanted me to drop this so that high school kids master this before they went to college. The idea is you get everybody on the same page with context. Then you do a problem statement that's worth solving, and that's defined well, and then you come up with an original solution. And they wanted this done with high school kids. All right. And grad students have trouble with this. And then when I spoke to the teachers, they came back and asked, does this work for normal kids in any way? I said, absolutely not. And they said, well, come back when it does. 8 years later, I came back. So when you're looking at how, for your audience, when they're looking to solve this, I had to do those two paths. I had to get these kids that in high school, they know more about the research process than most grad students, and I had to figure out how can we make this so simple that parents could teach it. So what the solution was quite simple, and you're not going to find it in this book explicitly. So here we are again. Do you see that massive overactivity in the front part of the brain?
Mhm. Yes.
In the back part of my brain, you see how nothing's going on?
Yep.
So what the solution is we needed to take things from back here where nothing's going on, and we got to bring it up here where we have 2.5 times the neuroactivity. That was the secret. So according to Yale, that's done by word analysis. That's this part of the brain does word analysis followed by articulation. So the biggest problem for dyslexics is I want you to imagine, because you're a mom and a grandmother and your family's very successful academically. I want you to think of a dyslexic kid, parents of a dyslexic kid, in elementary school where they're writing a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words. And they have no idea what to do. The special ed teachers don't know what to do. The psychologists don't know what to do, besides going to one of these $75,000 a year private schools. And just so you know what it takes for parents to learn that, it's a bachelor's degree, 2 years of study, like a master's at $11,000 for a non for profit. They don't take you forever. All right. So they don't know what to do. I'm going to tell you how to do that in the next 10 minutes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So just so you know, I think your answer is going to be no, but do you know any personally, any elementary school dyslexic kids?
I don't.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the example I use all the time in this situation. The girl's name is Sarah. When I was doing this with her, she was 10 years old. Fifth grade, reading and writing at the second grade level, writing essentially randomly placed misspelled words. Her favorite thing in the world to do was swimming. She liked to jump in the pool every chance she could get. She's on the swim team. So here's what we do. Assuming you're going to teach Sarah, remember, you're going to succeed where everybody else has failed. You're going to get a laptop computer with a real keyboard, not an iPad, not an iPhone, and certainly not handwriting. And you're going to type out hero plus sign. What are we talking about? And she's going to copy it. And your audience is saying, not copying. It's okay. Professor James Collins, Strategies for Struggling Writers, Default Writing Strategy of Copying. So she's going to type that out. And then we're going to exchange hero for Sarah's name. So it's hero plus sign, what are we talking about? We swap out hero for Sarah. Sarah plus sign, what are we talking about? Then we're going to go to a list of 10 things that she really, really likes, and then a list of 10 things she really, really hates. So it's 20 in all. We're going to get the top one on the list, which for her is swimming. So we got Sarah plus sign, what are we talking about? We're going to swap that out for swimming. Sarah plus sign swimming. See how we got there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now I'm going to try to fool you with two of the simplest questions you will ever be asked. If you answer them exactly, this works. If it doesn't, you're going to find you'll be confused and then you'll have an epiphany on what dyslexia really is. Do you think I can fool you?
Probably.
Okay. Well, just try to answer as specifically as possible. All right. So we got Sarah plus sign swimming. We need to swap out the plus sign for a word. So here's my question. Does Sarah like or dislike swimming?
She likes swimming.
Yes, but that's not what I asked.
Oh, she does like swimming.
Yeah, no, it's her favorite thing in the world.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but what you answered isn't what I asked. So let me ask again. Does Sarah like or dislike swimming?
Like,
Good. Got it exactly. Now, replace the plus sign with that word, and what is the three-word sentence?
Sarah likes swimming.
But that's not what I asked.
Sarah likes swimming.
There you go. Do you
Three
see what
words.
the difference was?
I thought I said it the same both times. Sorry.
I'm
Sarah,
sorry, what did you say again?
Sarah likes swimming.
Right, but that's the problem. That's not what I asked.
Oh, okay. All right.
Do I have you nice and confused?
Yeah, I guess you do. Yeah.
Okay, remember I asked you, does Sarah like or dislike swimming? You said like.
Mhm.
But when you put it into the sentence, you did what almost every educated person does. You put it in so it's a correct sentence. Sarah likes swimming. You added the S. Sarah's dyslexic. She doesn't know how to add the S. So what we have to do is we have to figure out a way to get her to add the S. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So let's just again go back to the science. See the back part of your brain, all that neuroactivity?
Hmm.
That's how you can do this. because that's where it's supposed to happen. She's got nothing going on. So we have to do it in a unnatural part of the brain. Now, how did Dr. Orton do this? Again, his approach has been around for 100 years now, in effect. And this is still what the wealthy use every year. Bill Gates' grandkids would be using this approach. They use seeing, touching, hearing, multiple senses to get you to eventually figure out how to do this. And as I said, it takes you 2 years to learn. It's complicated as all heck. Here's a much better way using modern neuroscience. The front part of the brain is word analysis. So what I would do is I would ask Sarah, what would you, she would have said like, and she would have replaced it with like again. So it would be Sarah like swimming. I would ask Sarah, does that sound generally correct? And she would say no. And I would say, fix it. Sarah likes swimming. So by doing what it sounds correct, that's how you get over this. Then she practices that with 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Do you see how this is an extremely simple form of word analysis?
Yes.
Okay, then we're going to go because reason one. Give me a simple reason why a 10-year-old girl would like swimming.
Um, camaraderie with her teammates.
Camaraderie with her teammates. Sarah likes swimming because of camaraderie with her teammates. Do you see how the reasons after because are a simple form of or a simple form of articulation?
Mhm.
So what we have done is we now moved it from back here where nothing's going on up here where we have 2.5 times the neural activity. But here's the problem. Do you see now we have a whole mess of misspelled words? Well,
Right.
here's how we fix that. We first tell Sarah to read what she wrote out loud and does it sound generally correct? And keep doing it until it does. That gets rid of the horrendous grammar errors. You got little ones and medium ones left. Teachers are really good at little ones and medium ones. They have a hard time with the catastrophic ones. That's gone. Now we tell Sarah, each time you misspell a word, you got to retype the entire sentence. She says, I'm not going to make that mistake. And she keeps doing it for around 3 to 13 times. Each time she says she's not going to make that mistake, she concentrates harder and harder. And that's where the magic happens. And eventually she gets it right. And then we do that for 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Then for reason one, then reason one and reason two, then reason one, reason two, and reason three. If she keeps making mistakes after the 20, repeat that 20 until it's perfect. Now, what you've done is we've moved a student from randomly placed misspelled words to a basic 3 reason sentence with decent grammar and correct spelling. And parents can do that at home.
Yeah.
Does
Oh
that
my God.
make sense?
Yeah. We make it so simple. We make it uh, so simple and fast. Like what is
Oh, this is not fast at all. One of the older the kid is, the quicker they will pick it up. An example of how slow this could be. Angela is in Texas. I met her on another podcast. She is a certified kindergarten to sixth grade teacher. She taught for over 10 years, retired when she had her first child. She's teaching her son August, who's 9. And to go through that took her 4.5 months because most parents do 10 to 15-minute sessions a couple of times a week. And some weeks they don't do anything because parents, things get in the way. All right. To get August to do that was 4.5 months. Other kids go through it much faster, but still, this is parents doing it at home and not spending 150 an hour.
right? Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that though is otherwise they're in the $75,000 school for 4 years. That
Yeah.
makes 4.5 months seem fast. But what is the fastest this can happen for a kid?
Oh, I've done this with high school kids in 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's a range. But here's the other thing about this is parents, when you try to go beyond this, what they tell me and what I found is we can't get these kids to do anything. Because so what I'm giving you is a 3-part model. This is part number 3. Just one other thing before we go on. Parents are concerned about reading. I'll give you a little hint. If your kids can write the words, they can read it. If they can write it, they can read it. All right. It's so much simpler teaching writing than reading. All right. So I teach writing and instead of reading first, and that's why. But then parents are like, how do I get my kids to do anything? Because especially if you're ADHD, they can't get these kids to do anything. And then I found out, remember when I told you about law school? I like politics. I went to law school and I just dominated it from the first class I was called on. I found that that deals with what I like to call a speciality. And this was confirmed by dyslexic professors. We are academic specialists, not generalists. Okay, we like to focus in a narrow little area. That's why we're in trouble K through college, but we dominate grad school from day one. So I'm going to give you my most successful student. I want everybody to know I never saw this before, Casey. I will never see this again. This will never, ever happen again. This was a one off, but to show you how important the point of the speciality is. I met Casey when she was 10, end of fifth grade, turned 11 over the summertime, and she was reading and writing at the second grade level. And she wanted to learn about Theodore Roosevelt. So I assigned her this little book, The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. All 1,000 pages or 900 pages. This is for 10th grade to first year college level, depending on who you ask. I picked that because it's just the best book on the subject. But let's assume 10th grade. She's reading at a second grade level. And Casey, stubborn as she was, said, I'm not doing writing first. I'm doing reading first. I said, okay, Casey, here's the process. You won't do it. Work with your mom a couple times a week, 10, 20 minutes, whatever your mom wants. I didn't know Casey. She essentially locked herself in a room for 3 hours a night, every night for 6 months, most of the days during the summer. At the end of that, you could flip over to this page, point out to a word, and she would tell you the exact dictionary definition. She jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months, and I worked with her for 15 minutes a week. Okay. Why am I spending so much time on this? Because her mom wanted to know, is that just for a book she likes? So I assigned her a book that she absolutely hated. By far, my most popular is this one, Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination. All 1,000 pages. Why? Have you ever been to Disneyland or Disney World?
I have. Yes,
You walk in and you to Magic Kingdom and you feel the Disney magic.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Two universal themes. First one is easy to find. The second one takes my kids usually 1 to 3 years to find. Parents are happy with that because then they're reading like 17-year-olds. Casey found in 3 months. Here's the important point. I said, Casey, what was it like? And I had her mom on this call because I knew she'd get a kick out of it. I said, Casey, what happens when you move from a book you liked to one that you hated? How much did everything drop? She said she hated the Disney book. Her motivation dropped about 50%. And then with permission, she went and ripped up the book. She hated it that much. But the key point is her motivation dropped 50%. Most motivated kid I ever worked with. Typical dyslexics, you step outside of that speciality, you're down 75 to 90%. So when you're trying to get the kid for an intervention period until they get to grade level, the key point here is until they get to grade level. You step outside of that speciality, they're going to fight you like you can't believe, and things fail or are incredibly inefficient. That's the most important things for parents to understand. Find their speciality. So then once you do, and then you ask them this question, in your speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed? Key question, but with little to no organization. They're going to say yes. So then what we have to do is we have to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So let me say that again. We have to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as the measurable output. So let me give you an example. In school, if you were asked to go back to high school and to answer this question, what effect did Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech have on the American 1960 civil rights movement? You know where to start that paper, like right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. For a dyslexic, it's like grabbing fog because in school, we typically teach from the very big, and then eventually over time, we get to the details. We got nothing we can latch on to because the front part of our brain is 2.5 times overactive, going all just crazy, just no organization. So then what we do is we have to start from the specific to the general. What personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? We go to his biography, we find the answer. That answer gives us a question, which gives us an answer, which we answer. Then that gives us a question, which gives us an answer. That forces us to organize our brain by using writing as a measurable output. The cue question, answer, question, answer, question, answer from a very specific starting point allows us to force our brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So the model is extremely simple. What the kids are especially interested in during the intervention period, specific to the general teaching, word analysis followed by articulation. And then parents ask, oh, how effective is that? What I tell them is, I can't tell you because none of the hundreds of the families I've worked with want to divulge anything. And I respect that absolutely until December 27th of 2024. And that's when I met Kimberly. And we met on Facebook and she said, yeah, you can use my son and me as an example. Kimberly's background is she's a homeschooling mom with some college, very religious. The Bible's very important in her house. She taught her son Reed is 10 years old, in fifth grade at the time, and she taught his brothers and sisters how to read appropriately, properly with traditional methods. Very successful. But she was kind of ashamed of herself deeply because she failed with her son, with Reed. So just so happens a few weeks before we met, she spent $700 and had the state of Ohio test her kids. Reed was reading at the 11th percentile, writing at the fourth. He was interested in Logan from X-Men, so that's what we use. We use graphic novels. She had to pre-approve everything. That's important. Parents need to pre-approve anything before it gets to the kids. She worked with him for an hour and a half a week for 5.5, 6 months. I worked with her for half an hour a week. Most parents do 10 to 15-minute sessions, a few a week, just so you can get an idea how long this takes. She finished up at the end of the school year and Reed was retested. But I'm not going to tell you those results because over the summer, Reed's friend said, we want you in public school to be with us socially, in class, lunch, the whole, everything. So beginning of August, 8.5 months after we met, he was tested in a public school. So the data is much stronger. Now, if this was January, Reed would have been put in special ed, away from his friends, unhappy kid. He had an increase. He jumped from the 11th percentile in reading to the 64th. His writing jumped from the 3rd percentile to the 65th. His grammar jumped to the 97th percentile. This last semester, unfortunately for Kimberly, her mother is in hospice and she's the primary caregiver. So she had to devote everything to her mom. Reed is getting, I'm just saying that because she didn't have this, she couldn't support Reed the way that she wanted. What happened, Reed was getting A's and B's, primarily in gen ed normal classes. Kimberly did what every parent dreams of, and it wasn't at a $75,000 a year school. She did it herself. And just so you know how effective this was, we ran the statistics. She taught Reed over 7 times faster in less than half the time a public school would have devoted to this. That's how powerful this process is.
Wow. Wow, that's fantastic. And it's a mom teaching their kid. And
Yes.
so yeah, so to put it in the parents' hands sounds like a pretty smart thing to do. Because parents care more about their kids than anybody's going to care about their kids. And I know public school teachers who are just overwhelmed in general by the number of kids that are in the class that
Hmm.
probably can't imagine spending special time with one or two kids to teach this. So the parents teaching is that how you see the future of this?
Oh, no, we want to get into the public schools. I've been training New York City public school teachers to do this for the past 12 years. I've taught the entire state of New Jersey through the Learning Disability, so I'm sorry, the New Jersey Association of Learning Consultants. They, under state charter, test for dyslexia, and then then they pick intervention programs. I trained that entire association in 2002 because of COVID. All right. It's logically in with the teachers. The problem is they can't get through all the administrative stuff to allow them to do their job. I mean, these teachers, most of them have 2-year master's degrees. They usually have hundreds of people wanting the job. They got it. They stayed for over 5 years. They could double, triple their salary going into corporate America doing the same thing, but they stay for the kids, and it's just impossible to get it through the school system. I mean, you have no idea how much. I mean, what I've done to try. So we at this point, I've just pretty much decided we're putting everything online so that we can work with parents directly. In a couple of weeks, we're launching a program on a school platform called school.com, and Angela's going to be leading it. It's $147 a month. Parents stay as long as they like. And what we're doing at that price point, that is not. We have weekly webinars where Angela will be walking parents how to do this because she's done it with her kid, and she's continuing working on with her son August, explaining this process. Everybody else that has anything to do with live interaction is at least over $500 a month, and we're doing it for 147 because we this isn't just for rich families. We just want to make it available to everybody.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. So, how do people find out where to go for your program on school?
We haven't launched it yet, so I'll let you know when we get there. We're just about to put it up, but putting up one of these programs, I'm going through a curriculum developer who teaches. I met on another podcast. She's an adjunct professor at Grand Canyon University. So we're just putting that up now. But once you get the kids to write the basic paragraphs and everything, like where Reed is now, then I got asked the next one. What do we do with these kids so they can actually, what about the middle and high school kids? So just real quick, do you remember throughout your education, just so the audience knows, how far did you go in your education?
I did some college.
You did some college, but you're an author. You've spoken to the United Nations. You're out there. So you're an expert writer. So I want you to think back in your education. Do you remember how you would have your topic sentence and then your data, whether it be statistics, quotes, or whatever, and that when you transitioned from your topic sentence to your data, it wasn't always that smooth? It's kind of difficult to get a smooth transition. Do you remember that?
Real early on, yeah, for sure.
Have you ever thought about applying a warrant to a body paragraph?
A warrant. Explain that.
A warrant, yes. Anybody outside a PhD there's no idea what this means. Masters people don't understand this. This is from the craft of research, and a warrant connects the topic sentence with your data by asking a how and why question. So here's real quick how this is really valuable for your audience, how they can teach their older students the basics. I want to show you quickly how to do this with a universal theme, but just to explain the process, I want you to think about a movie that you think is one of the best of all time, that everybody knows, and that you know it really well. What's the name of that movie?
The Sound of Music.
The Sound of Music. Okay, now I'm going to make you think really hard. I want you to sum up The Sound of Music. One word universal theme best represents that movie as best you can. One word.
Resilience.
Resilience. Okay. Now, when you look back at how movies are written, these are done by Ivy League educated reviewers. Do you notice that they tend to tell you this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and it ruins the movie?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay. Here's how you do it better. You would look at how did the actors, how did the director, and how did the screenwriter all do with the movie, with the universal theme of resilience. And that's how you'd write your review so people know what you're trying to say about the movie. You're doing it intelligently. They can see if they want to see it or not, and you're not ruining it for them. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
But the problem with resilience is it's so broad that if you're trying to focus it to write something really specific, it's too broad. You can't get something besides general stuff. You can't focus to get what you really want to say. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So what we have to do with traditional body paragraphs in academia is I use this formula, especially for English class. We have a hero. The hero wants to do something. So you're going to write out what that is. It's one sentence or multiple sentences. For each sentence, you're going to find the most important word. From the most important word, if you wrote a lot of sentences, you pick out the best one. But like resilience, it's broad. We need to really focus that what's best in your head. So we're going to take that word, our base universal theme, and put it into a thesaurus. And then we're going to look for synonyms. You can do this 5 at a time, 10 at a time, the whole level, multiple levels, whatever the student teacher decide. Let's say you're going to take 5 or 10. You're going to type out the word, your base universal theme. You're going to go to Merriam-Webster's online dictionary. You're going to find your definition, and you're going to have the dyslexic type that out. Now, at some point, if they type that out for 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, eventually they're going to know that word and the definition so clearly that 5 years later, because I usually have them do this at 10 or 11 or 12, when they're studying for their SATs, they know those words so well they don't have to study a vocabulary list because they remember 70, 80% of it. So then you're going to find out, then you're going to do the same thing for those 5 or 10 synonyms and pick the one that best matches what's in your head. Now it's much more of a focus. But at this point, I can hear parents say, my kid won't do that. If you're in their speciality, they do. You step out of it, no way, they won't do it. So once you find that much more specific word that best matches in your head, the definition that best matches in your head, that's our universal thing. It's now much more focused. Then you use that to come up with the ultimate villain, the best person or concept that can prevent the hero from doing what they want to do. And then we take that and we put it into a simple sentence. Do you see how that's an evolved form of word analysis?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Then we come up with 3 good reasons. But let's just take the first reason. We take that reason, we turn it into a simple universal theme to represent the reason. Then we go to the script of The Sound of Music. We find a quote, 1 sentence quote that deals with that universal theme at the beginning of the movie and then one near the end. We put those 2 quotes together, and then from there we create a topic sentence. And then we answer one warrant, one how and why question, because they're based on the same universal theme. And that used to connect the 2 quotes. All right. And then when we teach the course online, we go into a lot of other details to finish it up, but that's essentially the basic skill. Here's the key point. A university professor reading that paragraph will say, oh, that student used a warrant. This must be at the college level. And what's beautiful is when I have, literally in this example, a 7th grade dyslexic kid doing this, his older brother is fighting to be valedictorian as a senior in high school, who is in AP English, who teacher has no idea what a warrant is. And the college professor is saying that the kid in middle school is technically writing a more evolved paragraph because of the use of a warrant. And the high school senior, his older brother, gets really frustrated saying, well, I'm the AP kid. He's dyslexic. He's so much younger. What the? And he gets really frustrated. And I look at the younger brother and say, isn't this beautiful?
Right. Yeah. So fun. It's a fun win.
Well, it gives the younger kids such an ego boost because they've always been in the shadow of the genius older brother. And now they're doing something technically more evolved. And then the older brother wants to know, how do you use warrants? Well, they pick it up really fast. But for that instant, you want to see an ego boost to the kid because typically they have older brothers and sisters who are not dyslexic, who generally are doing exceptionally well. And that's the hook that propels them into doing the much more evolved stuff, the problem statement and the solution, which is that's the rest of the craft of research that I teach at advanced middle school and high school.
Wow. Yeah. Holy cow. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so if you have a student who is dyslexic, it can be awfully hard to engage, like you said, unless they're in their speciality, unless they're focused on something that they love, right?
Mhm.
And so how does that work in a regular classroom?
Oh, well, the key thing is I need to be very clear on this. We do this at home, what I call the intervention period, until they're at grade level. Then, like Reed, you put them in school. And then what happens, and I'm just going to call this a well-raised child. Do you remember when your kids were, 1 to 3, 4 years old, and you kept telling them no, and you were there to make sure that they developed into good people and to not being a bunch of, egotistical, selfish people? You put the time in to make that work.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I call is a simple definition a well-raised child. So when that happens and Reed was confronted with this, I told his parents, his mom, and the teachers through his mom, be a rock. You're doing this. You can do this now. And he started, complained and he pushed back. You remember when you raised your kids and they were 11, 12, and they're pushing back when you put in solid rules? What happened every time when you just stood there like a rock?
They did it. They did what they were
They
told.
did it. You allowed them to squirm and jump around as long as they didn't get too out of hand, and eventually they just complied.
Right.
That's what happened to Reed. He's doing just fine now, getting generally A's and B's, and he complied. So that's what you have to do. But remember, he can do it now. Like in math class, his teacher liked him to write a lot. He didn't like to write a lot because he's slower than the other kids. He always will be. We think, like what happened to me in law school. I read a lot slower, I write a lot slower, but I can think of orders of magnitude faster. That's what that 2.5 times the neural activity, once properly corrected, can do. So he kind of fought. He's like, I don't like this. Then he finally, okay, I can't change it. And he's fine. He adapted because these kids, a lot of us have to adapt to ourselves. But once we're corrected, we can do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I would think that's your solution is so fabulous, and everybody should look you up and do what you're doing and follow you. And if you have any sort of issues with uh, a kid with dyslexia, you are the go-to person. You're doing it, Russell. I appreciate that. Meanwhile, though, before a kid gets to the they can do it, it's got to be frustrating in a classroom when they're working on things that they're really not interested in. And
Oh,
yeah,
it is beyond frustrating. But what I tell parents is, listen, your alternative is literally, even if you had the money, even if you forced the school by a federal court to pay the money, most people don't live around a school like Windward. You have to send the kid to boarding school. Even if you got that, they're going to take 4 to 5 years. Now, if it takes you 2 to 3 years to go over Disney, why do I keep coming back to this book? Because the kids, a lot of times, the parents would bribe them saying, well, if you can learn to read, you can go to Disney World. Back when it was affordable. Now it's tougher, but a lot of parents somehow find a way of making that happen. So the kids are super interested. I literally bring them to this book is for 17-year-olds. It's more complicated than Casey's book. So what I'm telling parents is this is going to take time. Just, with Reed, I'm sorry, Kimberly solved this in 5.5, 6 months. Okay. When she comes off hospice duties, we're going back and we'll be showing Reed this more evolved material, but he's already getting A's and B's. She's happy. She did what every parent dreams of. So, but August, because he's a year younger and she's doing 10 to 15-minute sessions like most parents, it's that first part took him 4.5 months. To get through the next part might take another 6. If the kid's in high school, we're not talking about that for those sentences. You're talking maybe a week. They learn it so much faster as they get older. Okay. But it's going to take time. So until we get them at grade level or above, you're just going to have to accept the frustration and try to limit the home. Just understand it's not going to be fun. Once you got it fixed, you can put them back in and they will be fine. Where you might run into some issues is some kids are just really that bad at math, and some kids are really just that bad at foreign languages. So what I recommend with the math thing, one kid was just crying, it was so bad. So I said, "The heck with this." I made a deal with the superintendent. Notice I'm not dealing with the principal, I'm dealing with the superintendent. And we came up with we're going to send the kid to a community college over the summertime, all right, with a gifted professor. All right. And there's going to be some extra tutoring help that parents arranged. And we got them through like college algebra, like what was required for them to get equivalence for high school. And I said, I don't want to hear about math again. And they said, well, we really can't argue because this, if they did another couple of classes, it's literally a lot of places you can get your high school diploma through a community college. For the foreign language, yeah, these kids, I went to Japan for, lived with a Japanese family and I couldn't learn any Japanese. Living with them, they spoke no English, I spoke no Japanese. So Look, I learned how to do nonverbal communication in college, thank goodness. But those are the areas. But the rest of the stuff, they'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Well, and kids are kids, and we used the word resilient earlier, and kids are resilient, and it makes so much sense to make a kid feel like he belongs, like he can accomplish, like he's smart, and instead of labels that people want to put on him, but that he's just as valuable as every other kid in the class. And
Yeah, but just think of this for a moment. In this hour, I've shown you how to go from basic sentences to doing advanced paragraphs. This material isn't just only for the dyslexic kids. Um, I'm working with another young gentleman, kid. I can't use his name for another couple of weeks. I was on his father's podcast. 99th percentile in English. I'm sorry, in science and math. He's 10. Wants to be a PhD working for NASA. So we are now. I'm working. I found he wants to learn about terraforming Mars. So what I gave him an initial document on the history of Mars, written from PhD resources. It was ninth grade reading, 12th grade content, which he finds fine. Now I found an actual article for him to write on the terraforming of Mars that hasn't been updated in 14 years. So I'm literally taking him through that process, and we are going to try to get him published. It's going to take years, but heck, even if it's 3 years later and we submit this thing, you're not supposed to do this until grad school. He's 10. So this also works for non-dyslexic, very bright kids. And remember, I told you this is the craft of research. What I just told you, this was maybe 5% of the value that this is taught. And then we start going into the really advanced stuff if the kid wants to go to college. And I can tell you this, with all this AI stuff coming out, if you know the craft of research, you know nothing about AI, you can guide it, you can lead it, you can supervise it, and you can learn that very quickly. I had kids get out of school, get out of college, go to a job, know nothing about AI. Within a matter of weeks, they're training everybody and their peers in AI because they just, how do I do context? How do I do problem statement? They just talk to the AI and they figure it out their way. And the
yeah,
people like, where did you learn all this? I'm like, I didn't use ChatGPT. I hated ChatGPT, and now I'm telling everybody how to use it. That's how powerful this is. This is not only about giving these kids an education today, it's about giving them a job tomorrow. Because there's people like, as you mentioned, your granddaughter's doing this really advanced engineering thing at the University of Michigan. You have to be able to guide not just work with the AI. Just starting 6 weeks ago, you have to guide it. All right. And that's required for students, even the really advanced kids, to get jobs now. And those who can are literally 5, 10x more productive sometimes. And they get paid appropriately. And if you can't, it's so hard to get a job if you don't have those skills.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it's focus focus on your kid and get it done, however
Mhm.
long it takes, because it does affect the rest of their life, obviously.
Yes. Yeah. But the most important thing is what I've created here, like Angela, it's 10 to 15-minute sessions. A couple of times a week. Sometimes you skip it, sometimes you do more. Doesn't matter. You will get there. But to make it that simple,
Yeah,
that's what took me a couple of decades.
yeah, yeah. But you did it. So thank you for doing it. Thank you. I'm sure there's so many people that have been helped and so many people that will be helped. So thank you so much for what you've done. And I will have, when you get me the information on how parents can go to your school site and what they need to
Yeah.
do, certainly we'll put it
Yeah,
out.
the simplest thing until then is just go to dyslexiaclasses.com. That's plural with an S, dyslexiaclasses.com. There's a button there that says download free guide. Click on that, answer 3 questions. You'll get a guide that kind of discusses what we discussed today. Most importantly, it gives you a chance to set up a time to work with, to call me for 3 hours to schedule it. It's a half an hour appointment. Okay. What I do is I find out what your kid's level of concern is, find out their speciality, and get you their book and audiobook so you can get them started.
Yeah, good, good. Great stuff. Great information. Thank you so much. And thank you for all you're doing. And thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, holy cow, that was a lot. Uh, and so if you know somebody who could benefit from this, you know somebody who has a child who can benefit from what you just heard, please pass this episode on to them. Make sure that they have this information because it can be hard to navigate with a kid of any kind, and with a kid with dyslexia, that can be a hard thing to navigate through the school system or through ways that you're trying to do it. So this is fantastic help that will help you and help them make the house more peaceful. Like everything will get better when a kid really understands this and enjoys school instead of is frustrated, and all the benefits and lifelong benefits. So, Russell, fantastic. I'll have everything in the show notes. And until we see each other again, I just pray that you keep your heart open and you live your love loud.